communicate if you don't have respect. Setting that foundation from the beginning and then having meetings at least once a month to be able to continue this dialogue is what I will do as president, because it is what's necessary for us to actually be able to work together to solve the problems that we face. Now, I've got a lot of ideas and I've got some plans about how I think we can address the many challenges that we face. You hear a lot of plans coming from other candidates who are running for president, but it's important to remember that plans really are only good if you're able to execute them. If you're able to work with Congress to get them passed into law. We don't have a country where the president can act unilaterally, right? You got to work with Congress to pass legislation. I know this is forgotten sometimes, Civics 101, but because it's forgotten, I think it's important to reiterate it. Now, we never know which way the political winds will blow. People say, oh, well, I'll be able to get my agenda passed because we're going to get more Democrats elected. Fine, but what about the other part of the country? About people from the other political party? The political winds blow left and right, back and forth. In order to make the lasting change we need to see, that's not going to be undone the next time the political winds blow in the other direction, it requires us to come together and work together. Nobody's ever going to get everything that you want, but we can and we will make progress if we can accomplish that. There's a number of different examples that I can point to of how this is possible, because it's hard to see that it's possible in this age of gridlock in Congress. But one of the most recent victories that we've seen is criminal justice reform. There was a piece of legislation passed not too long ago called the First Step Act that made an incredible impact on prison reform, on reducing high recidivism rates. There are thousands of people who had served their time who were actually able to be released from prison earlier than expected because of credits and other things that were included in this legislation, who are back home with their families today because of this legislation. There is a significant amount of money that's being saved, taxpayer dollars that are being saved because of the changes that are being made here to reduce recidivism rates, so you don't see the same people going over and over and over back through our criminal justice system. It didn't accomplish everything that we had wanted to accomplish, but it was an important first step to be able to make it so that we can build off of that and pass the Second Step Act, and so on and so forth. I think there are many other issues like this where there's a great opportunity, if we're willing to put the hyper-partisanship aside, come together as Americans to get the job done. Get the job done. As president, this will be my focus, to bring the values of service above self to the presidency. Service to the American people, service to our country. Reinstilling those principles of honor and respect and integrity to the presidency. So that all Americans can look towards our White House and know that that White House is a beacon of light and hope and opportunity for every single one of us. Thank you for being here tonight. I want to ask you to join me in this effort so that we can really bring about the kind of change that we need to see for the people. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We will open thoughts. Yes, sir, we'll start with you.
Tulsi, I had to be the first person here. I have to tell you, I've gone to a lot of these. I'm a Trump supporter, by the way, and nothing will waive from that. But I do listen to the other side. And I can tell you, you're the first one. You didn't want to make me jump out of my skull, because I'm telling you, negativity is what they're preaching. And you didn't do that here. You didn't even mention President Trump's name, which is fine with me, but I'm just saying, the last place I was terrible. Now, what are some of the things I want to talk about? Some of the ties that we have. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you know who the first Senate President of the state of Hawaii was?
Was it Hiram Fall?
No. Senator Doc Hill mean anything to you? That's my grandfather.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. Very proud of that.
Roots run deep.
Very much so.
Have you been there?
I've been to Hawaii back when I was 13.
Oh, wow.
There's another story
Is this
to
your wife?
It is, she
You guys
is.
should go.
We are.
We are.
Okay, good.
My son's getting married.
Good.
There's something really important, damn.
Okay, I'll
can
make
pick
a
it up.
comment, and then if you
Okay.
remember it in a sec,
We'll continue. Look, there's a reason why I didn't bring up President Trump. Because what we're talking about runs much deeper than my disagreements with his policies in this administration. If we look at the root cause of so many of the challenges that we face, whether it has to do with foreign policy, which we'll get to, healthcare, infrastructure, criminal justice reform, education, you can go down the list of Social Security, go down the list of issues and challenges that we face. These are not all things that began the day Donald Trump got elected or the day he was sworn into office.
We would be there if it wasn't for the impeachment hoax and all this other garbage going on.
We would be where?
We would probably have cheaper prescriptions.
I disagree. I think this is an area for ripe for opportunity in getting bipartisan support. I think that the fact that President Trump and Nancy Pelosi are working together on bringing down prescription drug prices is a positive thing. But I'm talking about what brought us to this point. And this is a deeper systemic issue of essentially corruption within our own government, where you have, like I said, a government of, by, and for the very few rich and powerful who have such great influence over Washington that it spans across both political parties, where you have more people, unfortunately, both politicians as well as bureaucrats and people in positions of power who are more interested in serving those special interests, high-powered lobbyists and others, more than they're interested in actually serving the people who our government is supposed to be focused on serving one-pointedly. That's the change that I'm interested in seeing. Obviously, I'm running for president to defeat Donald Trump, with all due respect, but I think it's important for us all to recognize that's not the goal. That alone is not the goal.
Not your
I said these comments in the last debate that we had. Yes, I plan on defeating Donald Trump if I'm the Democratic nominee, but this is bigger than that. This is about defeating the corrosive and corruptive influences in our government that have caused such great pain, suffering, and challenge for all Americans in this country. Bringing people together, healing these divides so that we together can move forward. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I like what you're saying about public service, but personally, I support Convention of the States because we need term limits in Washington, D.C. Where do you stand on Convention of the States and term limits? What's your feeling about term limits?
Are you meaning like a constitutional type of convention?
Right. Well, Convention of the States, if it takes place, it's provided under Article 5.
Yeah.
It's provided if 34 states
Correct.
agree to it.
Right.
And we could have as our platform term limits, and it would be done, and there would be nothing the Supreme Court or the Congress could do if 38 states passed that.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that is why I'm interested in it, because we need term limits. These people will never vote themselves out. And the corruption stems from that fact, a large part of it, and plus immorality.
Yeah. I think it's if we're able to get that consensus amongst the number of states needed, then I think that it's a positive thing. Getting people more involved in the process. I think this debate about term limits should be had in the country. How long should they be? Those are the kinds of things that need to be worked out. The thing that I caution against is I have seen in at least 1 or 2 states that has implemented term limits that have been too short for their state elected officials. They've seen an unintended negative consequence where I think it's like 1 or 2 terms for a state legislator. The state legislator does not have the time to learn the process to be effective, and therefore they lean very heavily on their chiefs of staff or the staff who actually stick around as that high turnover occurs. And unfortunately what happens then is the lobbyists there at the state level will go and talk to and influence the chief of staff or the staff in order for them to tell, hey, here's the background on this issue, here's the way that we think you should vote. So the accountability, the lack of accountability that goes to those who are not elected officials is an unintended negative consequence that I think we should protect against. And I think that really just goes to a factor of timing so that you're not ending up in that situation. I think that a convention of the states is also a way to deal with things like Citizens United. Because the incumbency alone, basically what does the incumbency give a candidate? They are deeply entrenched in Washington, and for a lot of them, they are most dependent on lobbyist and PAC contributions to fund and fuel their campaigns, more so than they are, you know, small dollar grass, those who are given $5, $10, $15 a month or whatever people can give. So then you look at, okay, well, where are they, who are they spending their time with, and who are they listening to as they're making decisions on these policies? What to speak of the dark money that comes through Citizens United. So this is another place where I know folks are organizing, trying to build that consensus in enough states to overturn Citizens United and bring about some of the real campaign finance reform that we also need to see.